If you've been listening these past 2 weeks and recognizing yourself in the conversations around leadership, team dynamics, and the weight of carrying a business on your back, you already know whether this is for you. You're exhausted, you're carrying the emotions of your team, avoiding hard conversations, watching your culture slip, and wondering how long you can keep doing this at this pace. And if nothing changes, growth doesn't get lighter, it gets heavier. And if you're uncomfortable, that's the space that you have to lean into, and we'll help you do that along the way.
That is exactly why we created the Heartwork Collective, which is a 6 months container for you and your team to grow together through real ownership, real communication, and real development that actually changes how your business runs day to day. 6 months from now, your team is going to own their roles. You're going to lead from a grounded place instead of a reactive one, and it's no longer all on you. Doors close tonight. If you've been sitting on this decision, this is your moment. The link is in our show notes, and we'll see you in the collective. Welcome to the Heartwork Podcast, where we delve into stories, struggles, and triumphs of entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal growth. I'm Dr. Sara.
And I'm Dr. Marisa. We're here to guide practitioners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and those just navigating the complexities of life on a journey of discovery that explores the dance between passion and strategy, heart and hustle.
With candid conversations, insightful interviews, and plenty of laughs, get ready to uncover how leading with heart can transform your business and life. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Heartwork Podcast. Today, Sara and I are going to get really tactical and get into some of the nitty-gritty of communication skills when it comes to different nuances with your team. There may be certain times that you're wanting to encourage your team, celebrate your team, pour into your team, and build them up. There may be other times where you're having to have tough conversations about accountability, maybe on a project or even maybe personally in the way that they're choosing to show up to your team culture and influence other team members. Maybe there's times where you want to really recognize strength and celebrate what's going on within them in their own personal development and how that's showing up in their work. Maybe there's times where you're giving feedback and you have skills for that, but you don't have the skills to address any defensiveness that may come back at you in that situation. And so we just wanted to have an opportunity where we got to share a couple like this or that's, and give you some just more practical takeaways and tools to be able to have those conversations. And I know, Sara, over the last 10 years, and then also 15 years in practice in general, you've had a lot of experience with navigating all sorts of conversations.
100%.
Yeah. Where do you think we should start off first? Should we start with performance? Should we start with energy and building connections, owning mistakes, staying calm under pressure?
Let's do staying calm under pressure.
I love that. Okay, so sometimes the shit just goes a little crazy in your practice. Maybe it's with a client, maybe it's with a project, maybe you've brought the team together to have a facilitated conversation around a new SOP or system or just a sticky point that you've navigated recently that you never had experience before with. And so instead of spreading panic and shaking confidence and saying this is a disaster, what are we going to do? You really do, again, we want to think about leading your team through situations. When you think about leading, I think about someone who's helping to direct people up the mountain, down the mountain. I think of a trailblazer. I think of someone who's the forest ranger. You're helping to clear the brush, but you're not necessarily doing the walking for them, but you're helping to guide them through. And so if you acknowledge the challenge, hey guys, yep, this is a challenge. Let's work through it step by step. We are always going to face different obstacles in different times. It's our response or our responses that really can define us. And so let's stay focused on solutions. Because what you're doing there is you are acknowledging the challenge, but you're not sitting in the challenge. And what you're calling them towards and putting their focus on with that last sentence is solutions, forward thinking, forward movement versus someone acknowledging the shit or the toughness about it, but being okay, how do we transform that on the flip side?
I think one of the other things in just knowing how teams work is sometimes you have to understand when you go and have these conversations and when you redirect things. And
Right.
Like if things are happening and let's say as the owner and the CEO that you're seeing something not go correctly or there is that like how do they stay calm in a place of tension or energy or I've had this situation a lot where it's like super busy in our office and like everybody's talking about, "Oh my god, it's so busy." And I'm like, that's such a negative way to talk about it. It's like, "Oh my god, it's
Really?
so incredibly busy." Like I think that's amazing, like I think like there are moments and times where you can speak to something in a moment. However, there
Mm,
are way more moments of times where you are going to use it as an observation and use that as a training opportunity, or you
yes.
coach after a scenario versus it be in the moment. And because I think at the end of the day, like if you are reacting out of emotion, you're only going to create more emotion on the flip side for your team.
Yep.
And vice versa, you're going to teach them to then react out of emotion versus having a calm and collected opportunity to coach and really help them see what that forward momentum could look like. So this is just an example that really just happened for us just recently too. Like we are onboarding a bunch of new people. Like we're retraining a bunch of new things, and in the midst of training, right? Like everybody's not going to be this like perfect human being as they're trying to basically fail forward. They got to make mistakes to understand what we don't want
Yeah.
and also to really be able to celebrate the things that they're doing really well at the same time while they're learning all of our things. And so one of the things
Mhm.
I've also learned as a CEO is I'm not always the person that I'm directing that information to. And I want my leaders now to say, like, hey, I want you to notice when this is happening and start to
Yes.
think like me and observe like me so that you can then coach like I do. And so in the moment, I actually pulled one of the leaders aside and said, hey, I'm noticing this. Did you notice this? And they're like, yeah, I actually did. I'm like, okay, what a beautiful opportunity for us to coach through this really quick. Like, how would you handle this in this moment? And this was just like, this is so simple of how somebody was greeting somebody at the front desk and they were missing the opportunity to say hello or introduce themselves because they're newer, because they're just a little bit insecure and they're like, oh my God, I got to actually like get out of my way and actually talk to every person that comes through this door. Right. So there's just part of that like uncomfortability for them. So how would you coach on that? And it gave me an opportunity to coach with my leader in that moment. So I did in the moment talk to her, but then I
Mm,
suggested that she go and have a conversation with them afterwards. So it's like, hey, these are things that I'm noticing that you do really well. And at the end of the day, this is what we are really intentionally creating up at the front desk. And this is what I'm going to invite you to really look at and observe and facilitate so that we're creating the culture that we desire. And we kept seeing it a little bit throughout the course. And so now we as a office have made the choice to where we're actually going to be doing a training on Monday morning for our huddle. So that becomes just a widespread acknowledgement versus just pinholing this one person that we saw that wasn't doing all the things that we necessarily wanted her to do. Because I don't want
yeah.
to make her feel bad because she's a new trainee and she's training and like obviously we want to coach on that. However, this is useful information for every single human on my team to understand and to continue to acknowledge because it's our culture and why we do what we do. And so like
Yeah.
those are beautiful things to understand, like how to stay calm in the moment. I didn't flip out. I didn't go to that person that moment and be like, why are you not doing this? That is literally the worst thing you could ever do for your team. Granted, have I ever done that? 100%. Have I ever spoken out of moments where it was like I was in the heated moment and I said something out of line or I made them feel probably really shitty in that moment? Yes, definitely, because I'm human and I'm not been the greatest leader my whole life. And I think we can all understand that. However, I've learned and I can dance in those spaces where I operate more as an observer now than I do as a like, oh my God, I see that. I need to fix that. No, I can't. Bad idea to probably fix it in this moment because there's patience around, right? Like you got to also take your understanding of the environment around you at the same time. So beautiful
Okay.
opportunity to stay calm under pressure.
I love that. Okay. Kind of going off on that. So like obviously sometimes we can have tough talks. Sometimes we need to reset negativity. Sometimes we may need to like encourage more ownership or set clear expectations. What do you think would be the most helpful for our audience?
How to have hard conversations.
I
I
know
feel like
it's the
we
tough
have
talk
that all
always, right?
the Mhm.
Oh my gosh. It's just like if you walk into that awkward and uncomfortable, it's going to really feel awkward and uncomfortable. But also, it will absolutely like undermine you and undermine the confidence that you have as a leader. So, you do want to be able to embody like a kind and firm position in that conversation, in that spot. And so even just the acknowledgement of like, you care because it's important. So like this is important and I respect you and honor you enough to be able to discuss this with you and talk about it directly. My goal is for us to come out of this conversation much stronger and more aligned. So you can share about it or bring up the situation. And then I always love to invite back, kind of like how you invited your leader in that moment to say, I've noticed this. Have you noticed this? To even just say, what is your perspective on this situation? And if you're starting to get like a little bit of kind of like pullback or quietness, you could also then take the offense in the sense of saying, what do you need to hear from me right now? Because sometimes people will hear that stuff and they'll just immediately go into the like, I'm not good. I didn't do it right. I messed up. Like, I'm never going to get this through. You may have perfectionists on and around your team. You may have just individuals that feel unworthy from that, or they say that they want to hear constructive feedback because everyone wants to be able to like, grow and improve and be better. But sometimes hearing it from people that you look up to can be really challenging and when you're in a position like that. And so I would say, if it's like someone in that case is just about holding space to let their like emotion for a moment just like process and then being able to set clear expectations for what is going to come next. So you could even just say something like, here's what success will look like, and then define that. Be really clear and direct in defining what that is so that that person knows exactly what those steps are. And letting them know, like, I will absolutely support you, but I also want you to continue to own this so that we achieve these results together and that we can get through this as a team. And then asking for clarification, like, does any part of these expectations feel unclear or feel unrealistic in any way? And what would help you deliver this or perform this, do this, provide this with confidence? So that's kind of always the easiest way to go. But if you do have someone that kind of claps back at you, because we've all had a little bit of that, or someone sometimes just gets defensive, or maybe they're like, well, this wasn't my fault, or something like that. If you immediately start to go like, calm down, or like, hold on, or like lower your voice, what that typically does, at least in my opinion, just puts you more on the defensive because then you feel like you're not actually being heard and understood. You're just being told how to behave or how to respond. And in those situations, it can be more productive and more fruitful to just acknowledge the fact that they're getting heated for a reason. And it's probably because it actually matters to them and like their performance matters and it's tied into some deeper things. So even just taking the moment or the pause to say like, I can see this really matters to you and is really important. So let's slow down and let's walk and talk it through. I want to make sure that we solve this together with each other and not just for this one situation, but to continue to be healthy moving forward. And so you can ask them, like, what part of this really feels the most frustrating or personal, and what outcomes would feel a lot better or more constructive from your perspective.
I'm going to add, I think one of the things that people need to ask themselves when they're coming up to having conversations that you don't want to have, or that you're like, I avoid conversations, or I just don't want to do them, those types of things. I think a big question you need to ask yourself is why? Why do you
Mm,
not like to do them?
mhm,
Um, and to really discover, it's like, well, what's getting in the way? Is it because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings? Are you afraid that they're gonna call you a bad employer or a bad leader? Are you
right,
afraid that they're gonna leave? Like, what's the fear underneath it? Because that's the invitation first and foremost. Because if you are afraid to operate from that space, again, like, failure literally is the greatest teaching ground. Like, it truly
100%,
is. And so if you are so afraid to go there, you're going to limit your potential, but also that other humans' potential.
right.
And then also, if you are leading somebody to have these conversations, so I'm going to just add to the layer of this. So, like, what Marisa said was phenomenal if you are the one doing it. And also, same thing to teach your people to do it. But
Mhm,
what I've now done is I pretty much am not the person that's having a lot of these conversations unless it's like come to the point where I need to make some final decisions as the CEO, or if I
right,
need to make final either firing, letting go, or some higher level leader conversations. So I'm teaching my people to do this as well.
Yeah.
So if they ever have constriction around having a conversation, I ask the same thing. What's the fear? What's the hesitation, the restriction around, so
Mm.
that I can best understand what they are navigating. And a lot of times it's peer to peer. Like they don't feel like they're walking in an authority or have the confidence to do it, or they don't have the words to do it and they don't have the things to communicate. So I get to be able to coach them on that. Um, and one of the other things I'll ask a lot of times, because I've had to do this with my clinical director a lot because she now leads my whole doctor team. And she's really
Mm.
also at this point now, she's doing all the check ins for our new office manager and a lot of our other team now, the way things are transitioning. And so she has a lot of space to hold with our team. And she holds a lot of responsibility that if the conversation does not go well, they're going to leave the company. And
Sure.
because she also has had evidence of that, where she's had some beautiful conversations and those people are no longer with us at this point. And so one of the things I will ask her is, well, what's worst case scenario if you're honest and you actually have this clear conversation where you are allowing clear expectations to be heard and understood? What's the worst case scenario? And typically it's always that where, well, they're not going to be in line with our vision and they're going to want to leave. And I'm like, okay. Is that worst case scenario? Or is that at the end of the day actually best case scenario?
Right.
And it's like the perspective. We get to teach perspective for people. They're
Mm.
looking at the lens of like, holy crap, if this happens, I'm responsible. And also if this happens, then maybe we're gonna be down a team member we have to hire again. There's energy around hiring, like there's realities around if that does change, it's gonna change the environment of your office. But the best case scenario, God, what if you go have that conversation? You literally, for one, learn something about yourself because you motherfucking just had that conversation. And you can be so proud of yourself for standing with that human to have that space of that conversation. So, for one, best case scenario there, what is that best case scenario? So, I will literally ask, what's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? And let them talk it through with me. And then I will encourage that side of it. Best case scenario is, again, you learn something about yourself, you learn something about the human that you are talking to at the same time.
Right.
And then what if, yeah, somebody leaves? Best case scenario, it truly is the best thing for us because at the
Mhm.
same time, it's going to be the best case scenario because that person is no longer meant to be in our space of business or in our lives at this point of time. And I don't want to limit us. I also don't want to limit them. So there's no responsibility on your end. And at least I've had to come to that point where it's like I can freely let go of people if they're not meant to be on my train or my bus anymore. Right. And so I get to invite my team to do the same thing and have that confidence there. And then again, best case scenario is that you literally have clarity now around where that person, if they are going to stay, it's like, now what do you have coaching to be able to do over this next season of time for continued alignment for your company? There's so many freaking best case scenarios by having those conversations. You learn a lot about yourself and you learn a lot about how you show up and what the other person on the other side is also functioning as. So there's so much beauty in it as you ask the question of why do I not also desire to do this at the same time.
I agree. And again, sometimes it just takes that acknowledgement and you got to walk yourself through the possible scenarios. Um, but at the end of the day, like it just takes practice too. Like it just takes time and repetition, and every situation has slightly different nuances to them. And you're also dealing with not only a situation, but then a person on the other side of that situation.
Mhm.
Um, and everybody is different. Everybody is different in sometimes how they want feedback, how that communication goes, how the conversation continues to evolve. And it can be tricky. It's a skill. It's a skill. And this is why people invest in developing this aspect of their capacity to be a leader. And I mean at the same time it's like not only to be a leader for others, but also like leading yourself through things. Because if you have like discomfort having uncomfortable conversations, you may not be the person that can just go and be direct in the sense of like I can feel that there's some tension here, and I would really rather we talk about it openly because I value our working relationship, and I actually want us to be able to clear any air that potentially may need to be cleared, and or not only with me, but potentially with other team members. Um, so that we can all just be on the same page together and move through this versus feeling like it's brushing up against our capacity to do what it is that we're called here to do on a day-to-day basis and be effective and in trust with each other.
Yeah.
It's tough. Okay, so we don't only have a few minutes left in this episode. So I've got a couple more thoughts. We could either go down the path of like holding people accountable, or we could also do the positive in the sense of like celebrating people's progress and recognizing their strengths, not just the acknowledgement, but then continuing to call it forward. So, let's say things didn't get sent out on time or some task or some process was not done. You can acknowledge the fact that, something was committed to being done by XYZ time or in XYZ way. However, it went out differently, it was experienced differently, it was handled differently, done differently, whatever it is. Just acknowledging that like you don't have to say like you did this wrong, you let me down, you let our teams down, like this is incorrect. How many times have we trained on this, etc. Only in the sense of like, I'm here to help you own this and re-engage so that we get back on track together. So, what obstacles got in your way, and how can we help remove them for the future projects? And what steps can we take next time to prevent this from happening? So, again, it's like acknowledging what didn't take place in the way that it could have been or should have been, but not just sitting in that and making someone feel bad, but then asking them for their own feedback of how this can change and having them take ownership at the same time and accountability to create a different framework or a different priority set or a different ability to recognize urgency and importance with other tasks that they may be managing when there is something that needs to be attended to appropriately.
Yeah. It's always I train my team on this. Is it a people problem or is it a process problem?
Mm,
I think at the end of the day, like, because there also might just be the reality this person is not the right fit either in that role or within your company. And if it's something that's repeatable and that you've done the due diligence to make sure that there is, again, clear expectations, like Maurice is talking about, and you do it in a kind and supportive way, but yet they still are just not getting it and they're not like following through, they're either in the completely wrong role, you have really bad expectations for this human being, or they just are not meant to be with you. And I think one of the things I've learned over the course of time, I've let people stay where they are and not held account for a long time, more so because I wanted to caretake and be incredibly generous versus just realizing that's like, nope, this is just not the person that's meant to be in my business. And that part has come a lot faster for me because I've realized that we actually have really good processes in place. We have also really good people in place to lead these human beings to be really strong human beings. And so if they're not meeting those expectations over the course of a series of time, we're cutting ties a lot faster than I would have in the past. So that's been a learned experience, to be honest with that. And also at the same time, again, like it's just going back to, again, is it a people problem or is it a process problem? You get to ask that same question for yourself and in your business.
I agree. So let's say someone is doing something really well. You have great people in those seats and you want to celebrate that, not only to acknowledge it, but also to continue to be like, oh my gosh, there is so much juice here to squeeze. I want you to be able to like shine and share your brilliance with all of it. Just letting them know, like, find that point, find that like celebration point or that part of their personality, part of their work ethic that really is shining to you. Like maybe they have great eyes for detail, and they're very detail oriented and able to find and see things that other people may not have the same skill set in doing so. You could just say, like, you have a great asset in, an eye for detail. And that's like a huge gift to our team. I want to ensure that you get even more opportunities to use it. So where do you feel like your strengths shine the most? And or what skills, strengths do you want to lean into more at work? So again, it's like it's acknowledging that they have this skill and strength and then also getting them to think creatively about how they can continue to bring this to your team, whether it's a part of their role or whether it's not yet. But something that they could step into and really enjoy because it's something that they do well.
Love that. And just practically speaking, I think, I don't know about you, but there are times where I'm a busy CEO and I don't always think about celebrating my people. And I hate
Mhm.
that about myself.
Same.
Where Because I may see them doing something really fantastic and I think, oh my God, that's so awesome. But then I will get somebody else coming at me and I'm like, crap, I for totally missed this opportunity to celebrate that. So, practically speaking, there's in the moment celebrations that I think are so powerful because you see something and you're like, I think this is so brilliant. You did such a fucking good job. I think the biggest gift that you could do when you're celebrating somebody is to be very specific when you are celebrating. Not just that they're doing a good job, but what are they doing a great job at? So, just a side note on that. One of the things I've done over the course of my leadership is I will literally set reminders in my phone to celebrate people on my team. I will literally set a reminder on like a Tuesday where I will just send and I don't do it for everybody, but I will pick a team member and I'm like, I just want you to know I'm seeing this and I would love what you're doing here and blah, 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 blah. I'll send out a quick text. I literally set those reminders so that I literally remember to do it at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Um, and then one of the other things that I've learned is that big group call out. Some people don't really like to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
However, it really is a beautiful gift to be able to call out what somebody is doing really well in front of their peers so that everybody can celebrate that. And also at the same time that they know that you're seeing it, but you're making it more of a celebration. If you
Yeah.
really do know that somebody hates the outward experience, I would make sure that you pull them aside and have a personal conversation with them about it instead of that. But at the same time, I love big group call outs, which I think is really special. I think the same thing around like what Marisa was talking about, you can say all those things, but you can also leave notes. You can give little gifts. You can do things that are special to make somebody feel incredibly valued along the way of seeing when somebody is doing something great. And at the end of the day, that's also why reviews and things are in place so that if they are also doing fantastic and going above and beyond the role and the position and they're taking on more responsibility, that's where the opportunity for further development and role development is for them to where they basically can get a promotion and a raise and all the other perks and benefits of what that comes along with.
100%. So, guys, if you want more of this and more of this brilliance and ways to have hard conversations, hold accountability, celebrate your teams, get into the nitty gritty with it, this is what our Heartwork Collective was made for. So, just know it is Tuesday. It is the last day for you to be able to sign up. Okay? So, make sure to get on it. It might even be full by this point. I don't know. I haven't checked our emails yet to look and see, but if you haven't yet, send a message out. And if you need more detail, check out our show notes. We're so excited for the opportunity to get to work with you and your teams on this scale. We'll see you in the collective.
So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Heartwork Podcast. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to lead with heart in your business and life.
If you enjoyed this, subscribe so you never miss a release, rate our show, leave us a review, get on our VIP email list, and join our exclusive Facebook group, The Heartwork Life, to plug into our community and learn from us and other heart-led entrepreneurs on a weekly basis.
We look forward to chatting with you next time.
Bye!